Now on BBC Radio 4, the League of Gentlemen comedy team spend an evening in reputedly Britain's most haunted house to investigate the existence of the paranormal. Will strange sensations and a Ouija board session challenge their scepticism? Expect supernatural undertones and irreverent humour as Reece Shearsmith welcomes you to the League of Gentlemen's Ghost Chase.
In one of my favourite horror films from the 1960s, Robert Wise's The Haunting, Dr. John Markway talks about the days when people believed the Earth was flat and the idea of a round world scared them silly. Then they discovered how the round world worked. It's the same with the supernatural. Until we know how it works, we'll remain uncertain. And many people will continue to carry around a fear of the unknown. However, it wasn't a fear of the unknown which led me and my League of Gentlemen colleagues to a haunted house in Gloucester on a balmy July evening.
Please play with us.
Please, Mr. Tinsel, let me go.
The influence of the supernatural and horror is scattered throughout our work.
Oh, you're my wife now.
But it may come as some surprise to you that we all went along that night as non-believers. But would spending time in one of the scariest places in Britain challenge our beliefs and push the boundaries of our scepticism? Join me, Reece Shearsmith, for the next half hour as I reveal what happened when we experienced a night at the ancient Ram Inn. One thing is certain, it would be an evening we would never forget.
The ancient Ram Inn is a focal point of Wootton-under-Edge. It's just spooky, yeah. It's old and it's just spooky. And I won't walk past there on a night time. I cross the road.
I don't know how much of it is folklore just built up around it. I wouldn't like to live there myself.
Everyone in the town knows that, it's the Ram Inn, it's creepy. There's something creepy going on there.
The ancient Ram Inn, with its stories of murder, Satanism and child sacrifice, made this an obvious destination for our investigation. This ramshackle building, dating from the 12th century and supposedly built on a pagan burial ground, has brought reports of inexplicable freezing temperatures, numerous ghost sightings and a very evil atmosphere. A recent internet blog revealed that a member of a ghost hunting team was so shocked by his experiences there that all his hair fell out. All pretty frightening stuff, and on arrival at the inn, I invited everyone to give me their initial thoughts about the place and to outline their beliefs. Mark Gatiss.
To quote Peter Wingard in Night of the Eagle, I do not believe. I think there is something in it, but I don't think it's the survival of the spirit. I think there's something we don't understand, which is yet to be explained.
Jeremy Dyson.
I believe in the power of the human mind. That's the mystery, and the things that the human mind can perceive and interpret in extreme situations.
Steve Pemberton.
I believe in a thing called love, which is a song by The Darkness, which is quite appropriate for this evening. I don't believe in ghosts at all. But we're here in this amazing place, the Ram Inn, which is unlike anywhere I've ever been before. So who knows what's going to happen? I am open-minded, but at the moment I don't believe, apart from in love.
And as for me, I didn't believe in ghosts, but I really, really wanted to be proved wrong. The owner of the ancient Ram Inn is John Humphreys, who claims to share his home with several ghosts, 2 lustful demons, an incubus and a succubus, and a ghostly witch. Dressed in a leather jacket, tight blue jeans, and bearing an uncanny resemblance to the late Rod Hull, he appeared every bit as unconventional as his unusual home.
The whole building really is evil. Lots of people come here all the time. As soon as I open the door to them, they say, "Oh, I'm not going in there." They can feel it straight away.
And do you think, John, it's the house that's evil, or the things that have happened here that have made it evil?
I think it's both, actually.
Yeah. John, can I ask, if you feel the house is evil, why have you chosen it for your home?
I'm quite happy being here because I've always been interested in the past. It's been a great honour to save this building.
Most of the rooms contain bizarre antiques and eerie-looking stuffed animals. For example, in the Bishop's Room, a place that John described as the most haunted room in the world, contains 3 beds which play host to 3 stuffed gorillas. And not an emu in sight.
The barn you're about to see now, I believe, was the first Saxon church.
I'll have a look inside. Yeah.
Right.
Is the barn haunted?
Yes. Mediums and those sort of people coming here are claiming they can see men hanging from that beam and that beam. I've actually seen people going up the stairs here, going down the stairs, picked up and flung back up again. The goings on in this building are quite extraordinary. This room is now called the Witch's Room. The ghost of a witch appears in here on the bed. And she also appears over there in the corner. The chair over there is where an old woman goes seen. That's rather a lot for one room. It's almost unbelievable.
What happens on the bed, John?
Cats and dogs peeing on the bed. I haven't done that.
Ghost cats and dogs?
Yeah.
Right.
I know these soft toys forming a circle. What is that? Is that symbolic or just because there's a toad and a...
I don't think it's meant to be a circle, just...
This is the haunted chair, isn't it, here, John?
So Steve's going to have a little sit in the chair now. Do you feel anything odd when you sat down in that chair, Steve?
Spring.
No, I feel okay at the moment, but you're all looking at me, so I feel a bit self-conscious.
Yeah.
But this is apparently an old lady who sits in here sometimes.
Are you going to be brave enough to do something? No, this... All right,
I'll do it. What is it?
Right, I want you to watch what I'm doing. I want you to do the same. Now smell your fingers. Do you know what it is?
No.
Cow dung.
Brilliant.
It's 1,000 years old, and it's on twigs.
Right. So I've just rubbed my hand against the wall, and I can smell 1,000-year-old cow dung on my fingertips.
Well,
Yeah.
this is claimed by historians could well be the oldest wall in Britain.
Wow.
Now, just look at my deeds. How's this for dating the ram? They're in Norman French.
That's the deeds of the house.
Yes. You can't argue with that.
All these mummified rats, where did you find those?
They were everywhere.
Wow.
When I bought the ram, you couldn't see any beams. They were covered over with ceilings. But underneath, they were packed solid with dead rats.
Thing like that would have had to be suckled, wouldn't it?
I think all pubs have that, though. Rats. The clock behind you is interesting because faces appear in there
Really?
of children. Right, now here, this is the opening, the entrance to the most haunted room in the Ram, the haunted Bishop's Room. Is there anyone here?
Why'd you have to knock like that on the door, John?
I don't know. It's something that I've learnt years and years ago.
What's this?
Well, if you look up the chimney, you would see a hole in the wall. In there, I found devil worship and witchcraft that took place in this room.
What did you find?
A small horseshoe and a round block of wood with a piece cut out and one nail put in it again. They put hair and clothing in there, someone with a curse on them, and it was positioned so the fire, the heat from the fire, would slowly burn it up and that person would die.
After taking us on a tour of his home, John retired for the evening and left us in the company of local psychic medium Tony Rebecca Hunt and Phil Jones from Ghost Watchers Incorporated, who set up some useful equipment. And the League experienced their first Ouija board session with some fascinating results.
There are a number of things that can happen in a place like this. Some of the things that can happen are negative stored energy, which actually can manifest in certain areas and actually make people feel infected. The other things that can happen are also that we have unrested spirits in a room or place, and usually they will try and make some form of contact in order to give account of what they've been through. So in any area where there's been an atrocity of any sort, then you may get spirit trying to give you detail of that. We also have Phil, a technician, here today.
I've got a few things here with me, some EMF meters, which manage the levels of electromagnetic fields, and what they will do is when you get spikes of electromagnetic fields, it will indicate that.
Although sceptical, when Tony used the Ouija board to invite the spirit world to come forward, we all felt a little apprehensive, as we'd heard lots of creepy stories attached to this ancient practice.
I would ask Spirit to communicate with us now. Come to the board, please. We would like to talk to you.
Candle's gone out.
Did you breathe?
I have been breathing.
Heavily?
On it?
I don't know. My face is quite... Yeah, I don't know.
D. It's a D, isn't it? D. E. Orders. Maybe he's religious.
Holy soldier.
When did you die?
Oh, that's a good question. One, isn't it? 1351, 1351.
How did you die? Is that arrow? Yes, arrow.
Can I ask a very sceptical question?
Yeah, ask anything.
Why aren't you speaking to us in Norman French?
Oh. F.
Uh-oh.
F-O.
Well, that's a very Anglo-Saxon thing to say.
Of the rooms in the house, and the rooms are named, is the bishop's room the room that's evil?
Oh, God. That's a very definite, yeah.
That's a real definite, yes. Yeah. Much we should have done the board in there.
Yeah. What? Why are there so many ghosts in this house?
That's a good question.
Oh, come on.
Hell.
Oh.
This is moving so fast, you'll lose your finger on it.
N. E.
1. Oh. Hello.
So it's an EMF meter, and it measures electromagnetic fields. I've just turned it on to give myself a base reading, which I was doing earlier on, and it's just peaked as I turn it on, but it could possibly be the wiring in the building emitting the electromagnetic field, so this is trying to find the source.
It's spelling scared, maybe.
Scared? Ask. If you ask the question, they'll say yes or no.
Are you telling us you're scared?
It seems to be centred.
Yes.
What of?
This sort of level here. It disappears.
Right.
Come out.
Okay.
You're scared. What's he scared of?
What are you scared of?
It's going wild.
E.
A person?
Could be the apes in the bishop's room.
Is that a person?
What's it like being dead?
N.
C.
Nice?
Is
that
it?
nice?
Is it nice?
Nice.
Nice. I don't like that.
I'd like to invite communication by tapping. Are you with us here in the room? 2 taps for yes, please. We would like to find out if you're present in the room with us. Make a sound.
There was 1 tap then.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 1 tap means no, but if they made it, they're here.
They're playing us.
They're playing.
As midnight approached, I felt it was time for the League to split up and spend time alone in the rooms. Tony used a divining rod to choose who got which room. I was designated the attic, Steve the witch's room, Jeremy spent time in the barn, and Mark had the good fortune to lie down with the stuffed gorillas in the most haunted area of the house, the bishop's room.
Well, I'm here now in the bishop's room, which is supposed to be the most haunted room in this place. According to John, there seems to be about 700 ghosts in here. A Civil War ghost, a monk or 10.
I'm in the, I think I'm in the stables. Now, the bishop's room's supposed to be the worst room, but I think this one is. There's a green light from the psychic sensors, and I must admit I'm not a big fan of the dark. You see, it's all very well being sceptic when you're with your friends with the lights on, but it's a different matter when you're in an old, cold, pitch-black barn with terrible things.
I'm going to call out now and then be quiet for a few moments and just ask if there are any beings, astral beings or spirits. I mean you no harm, but if you are here, would you like to make a sign?
I do have some moonlight in this room, which is quite helpful, so it's not totally pitch black. But as I'm looking, things are getting darker somehow.
Very aware of the shapes in the room. All those things that you're frightened of as a kid. I think genuinely the most frightening thing are these 3 gorillas lying about these beds.
This is the room with the cat that wheezes on the bedspread, the candlewick bedspread, and there's a big circle of yellow, looks like Coleman's mustard. And is there a spirit in here? Oh, there is now. Been dying to do that. I didn't want to be rude. Oh dear. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a bit hysterical. I'm sitting... Sorry. That's me laughing, by the way. I'm not choking.
I am actually getting quite an odd feeling that there is, like the darkness is changing. I think it must be my eyes, but it feels like oppressive kind of heaviness as the blackness gets blacker in certain areas as I'm looking around the room.
Oh, I don't like it now. Wonder how long I've had. I bet I've only had about 30 seconds. Oh! Hello? What was that? No, I've been stood here. Yes. Yes, I haven't lost my hair. Why did they go off? Was it a rat? Possibly. And they don't know what tripped off that alarm. That's not a very comforting thought, is it? I'm hoping it's a rat.
After our Ouija board session and separate vigils in the various parts of the house, it was time to bring in an expert to try and explain what we were experiencing. CJ Romer is a respected parapsychologist who's made previous visits to the ancient ram.
1993, I came here, I listened to John, and I was utterly sceptical. The more John talked, the more I was convinced that I was in for, another night of the sound of tiles rattling on the roof, buildings creaking, all the things that you usually expect. And I was sitting upstairs in what's called the Bishop's Room, and I was being cynical, as I always am, and talking about this kind of thing and saying, you know, haunted houses, yeah, right. And suddenly it became chilly, and a shiver ran through me, and the doctor got up and walked out, and the physicist looked at me and said, "It's getting very, very cold." And I said, "Oh." And then we got down, and the thermometers were dropping, and in the space of 2 or 3 minutes they dropped from 12 degrees to -6. At which point we both got up and ran like hell. That's what happened to me here. Yeah. It's not very exciting, but
from a scientific point of view, it's immensely significant, isn't it?
Well, there were 3 observers who saw. We didn't have a digital readout. We had a minimum maximum thermometer, so we know it did drop to -6, because, you know, it gave the maximum as about 13, the minimum was -6. But I'm still puzzled about how, if the temperature variation was that rapid, we didn't enter shock. And I'm pretty sure that that kind of rapid transition in temperature would do you no good at all.
So what do you think happened?
It wasn't a hallucination because the temperature readings were there. And, I mean, this is... Earlier tonight you heard those raps. If they have an unusual acoustic property that none of you know, if they show the same pattern as raps have from other poltergeists and other supposed paranormal rapping cases that have been identified, then we have something that appears to me evidence for... Well, evidence for what? That's the question. Of course, it could well be spirits.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, actually, that is by far the most elegant and economical explanation, isn't it? That it's dead guys.
My question is this.
Yeah.
It's Richard Dawkins' question.
Sure.
When dead people communicate in whatever way they do, whether it's actually talking through a medium, rapping,
sure,
writing, automatic writing, why is it always so banal?
Why
is it never, "I'll tell you what it's like to be dead"? Why is it, "I'd like to get a message to my grandson, tell him I'm watching over him and I hope he does well at school"? It's so banal. It's never, ever, ever specific.
But it is sometimes, and this is the... Unfortunately, when it is specific and it describes the afterlife, it rarely agrees. Now, I mean, a famous example, early psychical researcher, a British philosopher, F.W. Myers, Frederick Myers. Myers died in, I believe, 1901. And in 1904, 6 mediums scattered around the globe. One of them was Rudyard Kipling's sister, actually, Alice Beryl, began to receive communications purportedly from Myers, but how they worked was quite interesting. You'd get a couple of lines here, and to a medium in New York, Leonora Piper, a couple of lines to Alice, Rudyard Kipling's sister, who at the time was in India, and a couple of lines to a lady in London, and then they were told by the scripts to write to one another. And these scripts were done by automatic writing, and these are called the cross correspondences. Now, they produced, in the end, a vast amount of literature. And this is at the time when Balfour, who was Prime Minister of England, is also Secretary of the Society of Psychical Research. So the correspondence address in those days was 10 Downing Street. You know, things have changed a bit since those days, but these scripts were held out to hold evidence of life after death. I mean, there's all kinds of problems with them, but the important thing here is that Myers does say what it's like to be dead, and he says that it's like standing behind a thick pane of glass, dictating to a feeble-minded, somewhat obtuse secretary. In answer to Dawkins' question, yes, they are often trite, they are often banal. And when you look at mediumship, the scripts are emotionally important to people. The spirits talk at a very human level, and I think in some ways that's more convincing to me.
Before ending our vigil, we regrouped in the Bishop's Room and invited Tony to make contact with the spirit world for one last time.
I could sense a presence over by the curtain. And just moving between the beds, but there's not a good feel in this room, and I don't feel comfortable in it. And I have to say that the presence that is in this room doesn't really want anybody in this room, and I don't think people would feel comfortable in it. If they're alone, they would want their time up.
So here we are at the end of our night at the Ram Inn, and I felt increasingly sick during the night, but that just could be the cod and chips that we had earlier. Just the various rooms and the stories that we've had tonight. I mean, it's unsettling, and I think I've let my mind run away with me. I feel like things have happened. I've been really surprised by the taps and when we did our Ouija board. That was really physical evidence, and it was happening, and there was no one doing it. So that's a puzzle to me. So I'm left with a question mark over the night. And I'm going to go around and ask the other members of the League of Gentlemen what they made of their experiences.
Well, I don't think my opinion's changed from before the night, but the experience is the undeniable level of intensity to it, which is interesting. But to me, the most interesting thing is it's all about narrative. And to me, the real power is in story. Everything I've experienced has confirmed that. And if you think such a theatrical experience, because, you know, this whole location could not have been more beautifully dressed by the best designer in the world. It's an incredibly evocative and atmospheric location. We're creative people. We know about the power of the imagination and what the imagination can produce. So you're in a very evocative environment that's stimulating your imagination into overdrive. It's not a huge leap from there to conjure and generate all kinds of intense feelings and emotions, just as you would if you were on stage.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been very interesting and good fun. Like Jeremy, I don't think I've changed my opinion.
You got rid of a bit of wind.
That's been a bit of relief. Yeah, I don't know what to say, really. I wouldn't have liked to have spent the night here on my own. Definitely not.
I've had a lovely time. I want to go home now. No, I really enjoyed it. It's been great fun, but also very interesting to talk to Tony and everybody else about aspects of it, to ask them the searching questions. I mean, like the Ouija board thing, you know, if we were writing this as a scene, those answers were very well done because they're genuinely spooky. What's it like being dead? Nice. I hated that. Yeah. It made me go cold. It's like the sort of answer, you know, it's very well thought through, that, however it happened. I've not changed my opinion at all, but it's absolutely true. I mean, it's obviously a very, very evocative atmosphere, and you know, I think we've worked ourselves up into hysteria anyway, but you could go in a different direction with that, from having fun to actually a kind of mass hysteria making you feel that you could simply not spend any time at all in a room on your own without fear of going mad or something coming out of the walls. And, you know, all those childhood fears, as I say, they do come back to you just lying there, even for 5 minutes. As your eyes become accustomed, you see shapes, and it wouldn't take too much for you to suddenly think. And in a 1,000-year-old place, everything's creaking and settling, and you know, you get very spooked. Mostly, it's been great fun.
I left the Ancient Ram Inn still of the mind that there are no such thing as ghosts. However, I was really excited and pleased and quite scared that we'd experienced these tapping noises coming from the Ouija board. And I said as much to Mark, who then turned to me and said, "How do you know that wasn't me?" Until next time, check under your bed and don't have nightmares.